Have you ever woken up in a hospital bed and felt watched? Not by doctors, not by nurses, but by something that doesn't belong there at all? Patients at St. Mary's General began whispering the same story. A woman leaning over them at night, her face pale, her eyes bottomless, her touch leaving behind not comfort, but wounds. 2 tiny punctures, as if the 4 had been misplaced. The staff laughed it off until the complaints kept coming, and one by one, patients started dying. I was there, not as a patient, but as a doctor. And I'll never forget the night I learned the truth. The hospital corridors were long and hollow, their fluorescent lights buzzing faintly, giving off more shadow than light. Past midnight, the halls should have been silent, but the patients stirred in their rooms, thrashing in nightmares, calling out in terror. I made my rounds, clipboard in hand, but their words chilled me. Every patient described the same thing: a nurse in white, leaning over their beds, whispering to them in a language no one recognized. And then, the weight of her hand pressing down on their chest, stealing the breath from their lungs. The strange part, there was no night nurse scheduled, not on those wards, not at those hours. Security was called. Cameras were checked. Nothing. Room after room, patients writhed, cried, even screamed. But the footage showed only empty beds. No one standing over them. No one leaning close. I tried to dismiss it. Hallucinations from fever. The mind playing cruel tricks in the dark. But then one man died. When I unbuttoned his hospital gown, I saw them clearly. Not from a needle, from any procedure. Fresh bleeding, the staff exchanged nervous glances. No one wanted to say it, but the word was on all our tongues. Feeding. That night I stayed late. I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed as I walked the halls alone. Every corner seemed to shift. Every shadow stretched a little too long, and then I passed the nurse's station. Empty. But the chair still swiveled, as if someone had just stood. Faint perfume lingered in the air, sickly sweet. I checked the monitors again, fast-forwarding through hours of footage. Nothing, but something gnawed at me. The patients' accounts were too consistent, too detailed. They weren't imagining it. On impulse, I reversed the footage, and that's when I saw her. At first, only a flicker, like static in human shape. But as the frames unwound, her form solidified. She appeared in reverse, bending away from patients instead of towards them. Her lips peeling back, releasing blood instead of drinking it. Her movements too smooth, too perfect, as though time itself had rejected her. The night nurse. Her uniform was pristine, her hair bound in an old-fashioned bun. But her face was ageless, pale as paper, and her eyes held nothing human. With each patient, she leaned in, mouth opening unnaturally wide, fangs glinting in the glow of heart monitors. And as the footage rolled backwards, it became clear. She had always been there. Only time itself tried to hide her. I stumbled back, bile rising in my throat. The tape clattered to the floor, and then I felt it, breath at my ear, a woman's voice whispering in that same unholy language. I spun around, but the hallway was empty. Only the scent of her perfume remained. I tried to warn the others, but the staff dismissed me, terrified to believe. The patients kept dying, one by one, each with punctures, each drained of something no transfusion could replace. So I made a choice. I left. I never returned to St. Mary's. But sometimes when I wake in the dead of night, I feel her leaning over me, the weight on my chest, the breath at my throat. And I wonder, did she follow me home? Or did she never exist in time at all? Slipping between seconds, feeding where no camera can see. If you ever find yourself in a hospital room and you wake in the dark to a perfume you don't recognize, don't open your eyes, don't move, don't breathe. Because she's still out there, the night nurse. And if you see her, it's already too late. Every autumn, When the evenings grow long and the sea wind carries a sharp bite, the fog arrives. It rolls across the coastal town of Gray Harbor, spilling from the waves like a living thing, seeping into the streets, cloaking the lamps, and smothering the night in silence. Not the gentle quiet of sleep, but a suffocating hush that presses against windows and waits. Children feel it first. They stop in their games, staring at the fog as if it's whispering their names. And soon, one by one, they begin to disappear. A barefoot child drifts from their bed. A front door creaks open in the mist. And by the time parents notice, it's too late. The streets are searched. Lanterns are lit. Voices cry out. But the fog gives nothing back until sunrise. That's when the missing children return. Their skin unmarked, their clothes untouched. But their eyes glow faintly in the morning light. Their smiles stretch a little too wide. Parents whisper that it's only tricks of dawn. But when the vanishings continue, and more children come back different, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Their laughter no longer sounds like laughter. Their voices echo, hollow, like something speaking through them. And their smiles cut deeper, sharper. The old families remember, speak of the Fog Father, an ancient figure who walks the shore when the mist is thickest. Not a man, but a silhouette of sea spray and shadow. His voice is the same whisper that lures children into the fog. He does not steal them, he chooses them. Collecting heirs. For his eternal brood, parents fight back, doors nailed shut. Priests muttering prayers over salt-lined thresholds. Hunters patrolling with torches. But it doesn't matter. The fog always finds a way in. The call is always heard. And one November night, it came early. So thick, so eager. By dawn, a third of Gray Harbor's children were gone. When they returned, they didn't speak. They simply stood in doorways. Pale faces, burning eyes, watching their families with something no longer human. That was the last autumn Gray Harbor kept records. Now, travelers who pass through describe a hollow town. Streets too quiet, homes that feel abandoned even when someone's inside. They speak of children glimpsed in the fog. Motionless, smiling, with glowing eyes. And sometimes, on the shoreline, they see him. Tall, shifting, pacing the waves, the Fog Father, and the children who belong to him.
It was early 2014, and living in San Francisco, my best friend Rob and I were dying to get out of the city for a while. We had been planning this trip for months, and we were finally going to make it happen. We decided that we were go camping in the woods for a week, and we packed up our car and headed up north. We got to the woods around 8 p.m., and we didn't want to waste any time setting up camp in the dark. So we just put our tent up as fast as we could, made a little fire, and went to bed shortly after. We woke up at around a.m. the next day, made some breakfast, poured some coffee, and started exploring the woods. There was a creek nearby, so we spent most of the morning just hanging out by the water and throwing rocks into it. We came across this one area where the trees had all been bent over and snapped off at the top of the trunks, like someone had literally just walked through them all. The forest floor was covered in these long, thin branches, and the whole area felt like this weird natural maze. It was super cool to see something like that in real life, because it looked like something from a fantasy movie. Rob started walking along the creek, and I followed behind him. We were talking and laughing and having the time of our lives. And then I turned around and realized that I couldn't see Rob anywhere. At first, I thought he was just ahead of me, but then I started to get really scared. I called his name a few times, and when I didn't hear back, I started to panic. I ran as fast as I could down the creek until I saw him sitting on a log with his head in his hands. "Rob, are you okay?" He jumped, and then he looked up at me with these wild eyes. "Holy shit, Marco," he said. "I don't know what happened. I think I just spaced out for a second." I'm sorry. I could tell that he was lying, but I didn't know why, and at that point, I was just too worried about what might have happened to him to press it. Let's just get out of here. And we headed back to the car without another word. All the way back at the campsite, I kept thinking about what had happened to Rob. Was there something wrong with him? Had he gotten hurt? Did he need help? I tried to shake it off, and I told myself that it was probably nothing, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next morning, I woke up, and he was his normal goofy self again. It was like nothing had happened the day before. We went back to the spot where we had found the tree maze, and we hung out by the creek again. But it was weird, and there was tension between us, and neither of us would talk about what had happened the day before. Later that day, we were sitting in the car eating snacks and drinking some wine when Rob stopped and looked me dead in the eyes. "Are you gonna keep ignoring what happened, or are you gonna talk about it?" he asked. "I'm sorry," I said. "I don't know what happened to me yesterday. One minute I was just standing there, and the next thing I knew, I was freaking out looking for you. But I don't remember anything else after that. It's like there's this huge hole in my memory. I don't know what's happening to us, but I don't like it, and I think we should leave." We packed up and we left that day, and we haven't been back to the woods since. The weird thing is that every time we try to talk about it now, we both get really freaked out, and we stop talking about it. There's always this tension between us whenever we try to bring it up. And it's been like this for almost 10 years now. It's strange because Rob and I are both pretty logical people. We believe in science, and we don't really believe in things like ghosts or magic or curses. So we can't come up with any possible explanation for what could have happened to us. I don't even know if I am doing the right thing by telling this story, because I don't even know if it is real. I mean, I know it happened. But was it actually real, or was it all in our heads? I don't know. Okay, let's rewind a bit. Let's start at the beginning. Like, how did we even end up in the woods in the first place? Well, as I said, Rob and I were best friends. We'd been friends since middle school, and we were super close. We did everything together, and we knew everything about each other. Growing up, we'd always talked about how we wanted to spend a week in the woods away from everyone, just the two of us. It was something that we always dreamed about doing, and we finally decided to do it in early 2014. We both had jobs that we liked, and we were able to take a week off work. So we started planning the trip. We decided to go to this one spot up north that we had seen on a TV show. It was supposed to be really beautiful and secluded and perfect for what we wanted to do. We bought a tent, a sleeping bag, and some other camping supplies, and we were ready to go. On the day that we left, we packed up the car and we hit the road around noon. The drive was about 5 hours, so we had plenty of time to listen to music and drink some beer and just relax. We made it to the woods around 8 p.m. and we were exhausted, so we just set up the tent as fast as we could, made a little fire, and went to bed. So yeah, that's the story of what led us to the woods that night. I honestly can't remember much from that night except for waking up in the morning and realizing that Rob wasn't there. I remember feeling really scared and confused and trying to find him and not knowing what had happened to him. But other than that, it's all just a blur. And then the next morning after we found each other, there was just this weird tension between us, and we didn't talk about it. We just packed up and left. So what do you think happened to us? Do you have any idea why we would have both blacked out at the same time and then not remember anything? I don't know. Maybe it was some kind of mass hysteria or something. But that doesn't make sense either, because we both have degrees in psychology and we know all about stuff like that. It wouldn't have happened to us. Or maybe it was some kind of mental defense mechanism. Maybe we saw something that we weren't supposed to see. Or maybe we stumbled into some kind of dangerous situation and our minds just blocked it out. But if that was the case, why would we both do the same thing? And why would we both remember everything up until the point that it happened, and then nothing after that? It's so weird. I've done some research on it, and I found some similar stories online, but I've never seen anything quite like this. I don't know what to think. Now, some people might say that this is just a made-up story. They might say that it's just a horror story that I came up with to scare people. But I promise you that it's real. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling the truth. This really happened to me, and I don't know why. So if you have any ideas of what could have happened to us, please let me know. I'm desperate for answers. Maybe it was some kind of curse, or maybe there was some kind of evil entity in the woods that possessed us or something. I don't know. Maybe it was some kind of government experiment, or maybe we were abducted by aliens. Who knows? But seriously, if you have any ideas of what could have happened, please let me know. I'm so confused and I need help. Well, thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing for more content, and I'll see you next time.